Now, I may be biased considering I'm a Dolphins fan, but over the past year and a half, the Dolphins have been one of the most fun and interesting teams to follow in the NFL. What our genius of a head coach, Brian Flores, has done with this team has been nothing short of astounding, and we're still barely getting started. Over the past 2 years, we've had 5 first-round picks, debatably the number 1 defense in the NFL, and a massive improvement for such a young team in such a short amount of time. Going into year 3, we're at a very pivotal point as an organization. This brings us to the topic of today's video, Tua Tagovailoa, and why we as Dolphins fans should put our faith in him. Let me take you back to the 2020 NFL Draft. With Joe Burrow off the board, that left Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert still ripe for the taking. Don't let anyone fool you. I knew almost no one who had Justin Herbert over Tua at the time of the draft. Hell, I had Herbert as a bust. I'm sorry, Justin, I was super wrong. But the Dolphins made the decision almost everyone else would have made and picked Tua with the 5th overall pick, fully knowing he was coming off a devastating hip injury and that it was going to take time. Somewhere along the way his rookie season, people forgot about that. And I believe the reasons why people forgot were because of the benching and reinsertion of Ryan Fitzpatrick and the success of Justin Herbert. After going 3-3 with 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, Fitzpatrick was surprisingly benched for Tua Week 7 heading into the Rams game. This understandably left him devastated, and many teammates and fans confused as to why, because he wasn't necessarily playing bad. Either way, Tua was thrown into the fire against Aaron Donald and the Rams. Tua would go on to have, in my opinion, considering the circumstances, to have a pretty good rookie season, throwing for 1,814 yards, 14 total touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. And according to PFF, Tua graded as the 10th best grade among rookie quarterbacks with at least 500 snaps since 2006. Yet, he was still called a bust at the end of the season. You can blame that on 3 games: the Broncos, the Raiders, and the final game against the Buffalo Bills. Tua would be benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick in both the final quarters of the Broncos and Raiders game, where Fitz would only go to win against the Raiders. Many people saw this as a reason to bench Tua for Fitz the rest of the season, but I saw it as one of Tua's biggest roadblocks: OC Chan Gailey and his 2 different playbooks. In my opinion, one of the biggest things that happened for Tua this offseason was the resigning of Gailey, and that's because Gailey did not trust Tua or did not believe in him, and that was evident in his play calling. I really don't like when people say, Tua can't throw deep, or Tua doesn't have the arm to go deep, when he was rarely ever given the chance to. Gailey was extremely conservative when Tua was in the game, and guns blazing when Fitz was in, which I think made Tua even more timid to throw deep when he had the chance. I personally like that we started Tua, and he got the experience under his belt, but if he was going to be put in a position to fail because the OC didn't trust or believe in him, I'd rather he sat out the season. And then came the Bills game, where Fitz had to sit out due to the COVID protocol, so it was up to Tua to win this game, so we were guaranteed in the playoffs. We lost 56-26. Looking at the tape, it's evident it was nowhere near all his fault for the Dolphins losing that game, but the fans and media seemed to put it all on him. While all this drama was happening across the country, Tua's other reason for some Dolphins fans calling him a bust and clamoring for a new QB was tearing it up in San Diego. NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, Justin Herbert had a historic rookie season. He was taken after Tua with the 6th overall pick, and he threw for 4,336 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Insane. He was bigger than Tua, stronger than Tua, more athletic than Tua, and taking a pick after him. Ouch. The Chargers went 7-9 and had 0 chances at the playoffs, but people didn't care. They'd found their franchise guy, while Dolphins fans were left wondering, what if? I'm going to be straight with everyone here. Justin Herbert is and will always be more talented than Tua. He's going to be a perennial all-pro guy. But as I'll reiterate later in the video, that doesn't mean Tua can't be a great QB in the NFL. Give Tua time. He's had 1 year in the NFL and had a solid one at that, even though he's coming off a hip injury with 0 offseason. We don't need to move after a year. People need time to grow and adjust. Herbert is just an outlier. Now that I've given you some backstory, let me explain why I believe in Tua and why you should too. Reason number 1. During his rookie season, he not only had to work his way through a devastating hip injury, he had to work his way through that with a pandemic and zero offseason, as I've stated before. You could tell by watching him that he looked uncomfortable all throughout the season. He admitted to not fully comprehending the playbook when he was playing. And one of the main things I noticed was in his throwing motion and his body in general. It seemed that at times there just wasn't much velocity on the ball, and that all comes from his throwing motion. He seemed to be throwing with just his arm most of the time, not utilizing his lower body, which is half of the motion. It also just seemed to me that he wasn't in tip-top shape, and I can't blame him. He was focused on making sure he could even step on the field, but all that is going to change. I've watched him closely all offseason, and he's worked his ass off. Workouts every day, throwing with his receivers all offseason, getting stronger. It's awesome to see, and we're already seeing results. As of today, Thursday the 29th of July, Tua has excelled in training camp. He looks so much stronger, so much more confident, his motions look clean, and most importantly to me, he seems much more like a leader. All of his teammates and coaches have great things to say about him, and with much more confidence than last year. Reason number 2. It bothered me so much when I heard analysts saying that Tua's receiving core was fine. It was fine when people were actually healthy. Devontae Parker played most of the season but had lingering injuries all throughout. Albert Wilson and Allen Hurns opted out. Preston Williams was out half the season. All respect to these players, but Tua is left with Mac Hollins, Lynn Bowden Jr., and Malcolm Perry to throw to. I love all these guys, but 2 of them played QB the year before. This is their first season running actual routes. Tua did have Mike Gesicki, but he didn't have anybody to throw to on the outside. His receivers did not create much separation, if any, and in combination with an extremely young offensive line, it was a recipe for disaster. But Flores addressed that problem perfectly. Flores went and got Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle, Tua's old teammate, to provide this offense with the spark it desperately needed. Not only that, but Albert Wilson is back, and it's already making huge plays with Tua in camp. 3 of our offensive linemen will be entering their second year at their preferred positions, and they got one of the most solid tackles in this year's draft, Liam Eichenberg. Barring injury, there's no excuse for Tua now. The organization has provided him with what he needs to succeed. So, is Tua a QB that can carry a franchise by himself? No, not at all. But that doesn't mean he can't be one of the top quarterbacks. Tua is extremely accurate, smart, and hardworking. And if we provide him with what he needs like we have, then I'm extremely confident that he could be one of the top 10 quarterbacks, and everyone else should have the same confidence in our QB. Go Fins.